Yeah, let the big dog hunt, Logan. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Kallas Remarks with your host Joe Staszak and my co-host Steve Kallas, Johnny Kallas. Fellas, how we doing today? We're talking a little baseball. We're also going to recap week 5 of the NFL season. Some crazy stuff went on, but of course, some crazier stuff went on last night, a little north of the border in Toronto. How you guys doing?
Good. Most exciting sports month of the year we're in right now.
It's been unbelievable. And last night, game 7, can't get much better than that. Blue Jays trailed 3-1 in the seventh inning. Couple hits knocked out one of Seattle's relievers, and then George Springer stepped to the plate, and that was the ball game. Steve, can you comment on George Springer? I know he's a former Astro, and you're not quite big on any former Astros for reasons that we've
Oh,
gone over before, but
hey,
he came
look.
through. I mean, we talked about last week. I'm a big Springer fan. He's clutch, and man, he rocked one. He just
No,
rocked
it is
one.
true. You got to give him credit, but in my world, he's a 2017 Astro forever. And of course, now they have to say he's tied for third in most home runs in the history of the postseason, which means he could have played 3, 5, 8, 7, 15. He could have played 22 games this postseason. I mean, I don't know how you compare the numbers. You know what I'm going to put up next week when we talk? We're going to have the all-time leading home run hitters in the postseason and the real home run hitters in the World Series. So you know forever that's Mantle 18, Ruth 15. These guys ain't breaking that. But
I'd like to see a thought bubble right now on Johnny because he has a smile on his face as you're going over these
here
guys.
we go again, 1920, whatever. No, come on, it's totally different. Look, I know we'll get to Ohtani. I give him all the credit in the world, but let me know when he does it in the World Series because it's only one guy in the history of baseball. I'm 95% sure to do hit 3 home runs twice in the World Series game. And you know who that is. I don't even have to tell you. It's not Oscar, Joe, but you know who.
I was going to say Oscar. Damn.
No, no, look, you gotta give Springer credit. I mean, it's his 23rd postseason home run, which is like video games if you're talking about the World Series. But
Ridiculous.
he did it when he had to. What I was focusing on, and Johnny sent me a text right after the game, was Julio Rodriguez hits a home run. Um, but I'll never forget, they asked Billy Martin if he was facing a batter and all he knew was that he was Hispanic, what would he do? And he said, I'd throw him a breaking ball. And he was called a racist for doing that. This is like in the 70s, maybe the 80s. And Rodriguez hits a home run. I mean, he's a really good player. And of course, Raleigh hit a home run. And then when Rodriguez gets up in the ninth, it's 4-3. Raleigh's on deck. And I think he struck out. And like of the, what was it, Johnny? 6 pitches he saw, I think 5 of them were balls. And the two he swung at, especially the last one, was like 5 inches off the plate. And who's waiting in the on deck circle is my whole point. Raleigh, who had hit a home run earlier in the game. So you just really need, in those situations, you really need to be patient and be able to take a pitch. But the answer to Billy Martin way back when was you don't get off the island by taking pitches. You got to
Mhm.
like swing at everything. And there is an element of truth to that. I mean, if you get a lot of walks and you're playing in the Dominican Republic, that's not going to make you a major league prospect. But look, you got to give credit to Toronto. They haven't been there since 1993, right? That was the year.
When they went back to back.
Um,
Yep.
and so I give them credit, but it always bothers me. Again, I see the list: Manny Ramirez, most all time, okay, and then Altuve second, and now Springer's tied for third with your guy Schwarber from the Phillies. I
Sure.
just makes makes my hair stand up on end. That's all.
Johnny, a couple thoughts on last night, and then let's talk about, the World Series coming up because the Blue Jays haven't necessarily won anything yet, except, I mean, yes, they won the pennant, but they have to win 4 more to win the World Series, and they will be facing a guy who's the best player on the planet. He showed that in Game 4 against the Brewers, striking out 10 and hitting 3 home runs. That's like, what? Seriously? I mean, I know he struggled up until then, but just unloaded Shohei Ohtani.
So, Steve, you don't think that Bernie Williams is the all-time Yankees home run leader in the postseason? Is that the point you're making? Okay.
You're not kidding. Neither is Jeter. But go ahead.
I love Bernie, but no, I just want to vent on a couple of points about yesterday's game. Steve really covered it the most. The first is just what is baseball doing having a game six and game seven on a back-to-back Sunday and Monday night during the football season? I understand you can't take both days off, but give me a game seven on a Tuesday night,
Thank
especially of
you.
that caliber. When I understand also basketball starting tonight, but the one king you don't go against, which probably when you guys were growing up, baseball was king, but the one king you don't go against now is the NFL, who's going to extend this thing to like 6 days of the week before we know it. So that was also just a little frustrating, trying to follow three games at once.
Absolutely.
Game seven being the most important. The only other small point I'll make about yesterday's game before talking about Ohtani. So one of the announcers, this is a really small point, but I just want to vent. After Springer hit the home run and the crowd went in a frenzy, said, "That's the biggest play of the year for the Blue Jays." And I'm like, man, that's the biggest play since Joe Carter hit a home run in 1992 for the Blue Jays. What are we talking about? The announcers just don't have a feel in the moment sometimes, man. And I forget which one that was, but I was like, man, you're going to undersell it that much.
Wow.
But I echo a lot of the points that Steve made. I just want to talk about, since you guys, I don't think, have been on since Ohtani, I understand it was the NLCS. Steve, I understand what you're saying about Ruth hitting three home runs twice. Didn't pitch in either of those games, obviously, in the World Series. But it is a game. It's a pennant. It's a clinching sort of pennant winning game for the Dodgers. And I was thinking about. I was actually listening to Dan Patrick. Is this the greatest performance in baseball history? I mean, three home runs in a National League Championship winning series effort while throwing 10 strikeouts. And the only two, and I give credit to Dan Patrick on this actually. Bob Gibson had his third complete game of the series in a game seven win in the 1967 World Series against the Red Sox while hitting a home run. So that's pretty good. And then it was, I had to write this name down, Rick Wise, who for the Philadelphia Phillies, Joe,
Phillies, Rick
Right.
Wise.
hit two home runs against the Cincinnati Reds while throwing a no-hitter in a regular season game in 1971. But I
Oh,
think, given everything, so I'm going back in time a little bit, maybe not to 1920, whatever, but I think it's the greatest performance, especially those aren't three Yankee Stadium home runs. Those are three I mean,
469.
470
Ball's
feet.
still going.
It's still, I mean, those are just moonshot home runs. And just to preview quickly the series, and I'll let Steve or you, Joe, wrap this up on baseball. When Ohtani is your sort of game four starting pitcher, you're in pretty good shape. The only thing that's gonna, lose this for the Dodgers is, they might go down as the worst bullpen ever to win a World Series if they find a way to hold on. But I wouldn't pitch to Guerrero. I guess I'd try not to pitch to Springer either. But when Ohtani's your fourth best starting pitcher, and you have the lineup the Dodgers have, it's going to be hard for anyone to beat them.
Don't
Guys,
forget Blake. Don't forget Blake Smith.
Oh, number
Blake
one in
Smith.
baseball. Absolutely.
And Yamamoto, everybody went ballistic because he threw a complete game in the World Series. I mean, it used to be routine. Bob Gibson in 1964, when he beat the Yankees in Game 7, he gave up two home runs, I think, in the ninth inning. They're not going to take him out back then. He wouldn't be there now. Even he wouldn't have finished the game. Joe, I just want to give you one more stat, and then I agree with Johnny. Everything about Ohtani, I think it is the greatest game ever. But when Johnny was talking about that, I'm reminded of Mickey Mantle, who was long retired, but I think Canseco was the first 40-40 guy, 40 home runs, 40 stolen bases. And Mickey Mantle said, "Oh, that's great. If I knew there was a big deal, I would have done it." And when he said it, he was Mickey Mantle. It wasn't even like he was bragging. But I want to give you one more bothersome stat, so Johnny can laugh at me either now or when we're off the air. So they put up all the things that Raleigh did this year, and he did a switch hitting catcher, hitting 60 home runs. That would have been on the list of things that will never happen, but he did it, and good for him. But now, uh, when they listed everything he did for switch hitter, 60 home runs, catcher, 60 home runs, Mariner, 60 home runs, because Griffey Jr. hit 56 twice. And then at the bottom it says, most home runs in the history of baseball in a 60 home run season. So now you've got he hits 60 and then he hits five in the playoffs. So he beat everybody in the it said he beat everybody in the American League. Maybe one of these other guys did it, I don't know. But the three people who did it in the American League before Raleigh did it were Ruth, Maris, and Judge. And as you guys might guess, if you hit 60 in 1927, the most games you could play in the postseason was seven. When Roger Maris had 61, the most games he could play in the postseason was seven. Now, Aaron Judge, I mean, unfortunately, he hasn't been real good in the playoffs, so he could get into all those games. But to say this guy did more than Ruth and Maris, I'm sorry. It's true, but that may be true, but um, so I've got all my complaints out representing guys from the 20s and the 60s. And I will say to me, these two teams were playing to lose to the Dodgers because thankfully I picked the Dodgers before, grudgingly, before the season, before the playoffs, before these last things. And I did it with Rick Morris also, although I hate the Dodgers.
And what, just real quick, what would be fascinating, and I didn't realize this until I think I heard Jeter Ortiz and those, and what is it, A-Rod talk about it.
Mhm.
The Dodgers would become the first back-to-back series winners since the Yankees three-peated in
Yankees.
the late 90s. Wow, I can't believe baseball, you usually see, because of lack of salary cap, more back-to-back, but we haven't had one in 25 years, so that's pretty interesting.
Well, the Phillies tried, right? Right, Joe?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm sorry. I was just looking over something because you talked about, and the Dodgers bullpen was horrifically bad heading into the postseason. They've actually pitched okay, but the starting pit, they gave up 4 runs in 4 games to the Brewers. You're going to win a lot of series when you give up 4 runs in 4 games. You know what I mean? Like with Blake Snell and our boy Kershaw didn't even see the mound, Steve. He saw it
Well,
in the Phillies series and got rocked.
exactly. They put him in. He kept retiring, but then he pitched two more times in the regular season, and then he
Yeah.
got they were trying to. I don't even want to talk. Johnny, Joe and I think Kershaw is the Peyton Manning of baseball. He's unbelievable Hall of Famer in the regular season, and then not so much in the postseason.
Struggles a
I
little bit in
Yeah,
October.
I agree, but you could do a lot worse than the Peyton Manning of baseball.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. All right, switching to football. I mean, we could start with last night. Interesting game, Tampa Bay. A lot of folks think that at least heading in, they might have been the best team in the league. I know the Chiefs are coming on, even though their record they're only 1 game over 500. But Detroit shut them down pretty good last night. Baker Mayfield did not have a great game, and again, I think Detroit personally is one of the most buttoned up teams in the league. I know they didn't play well in the opener, and they didn't play well a couple weeks ago. Was it against the Chiefs? Might have been
Against the Chiefs, yeah.
against the Chiefs, but when they're on, they're sharp and they have a lot of explosiveness. Jameer Gibbs and even David Montgomery and Goff had a pretty good game, and I thought the defensive backs did a real nice job against Baker Mayfield. Unfortunately, Mike Evans returned from an injury, broke his clavicle. He's now out for the season. Tez Johnson, though, had a touchdown. I mean, they drafted well, but I don't think Tampa Bay is quite the team that I think others think. But I think Detroit is going to be one of those teams left standing in the NFC, at least towards the very end.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I think Jameer Gibbs, I think he went over 200 yards from scrimmage by the end of the third quarter. I mean, he had a heck of a game. He's about as explosive of a player as they come in the NFL. Feel for Mike Evans. He's obviously now going to lose this incredible streak he had to start his season, most consecutive 1,000. I don't know if was he tied with Rice or did he pass Rice?
Yeah,
Tied
11,
with
tied
Rice.
with the race.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to go into the Hall of Fame, I think, just because of his consistent level of excellence. But obviously, that streak's coming to an end. And yeah, Baker came back down to the pack a little bit. My only concern with the Lions, look, they did lose to Kansas City in Kansas City, and I think the Chiefs are now playing like the best team in football, so that's not the worst loss in the world. But, just thinking about down the road come playoff time, I think a lot about quarterbacks who can make it happen in the playoffs and are reliable and, winning at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Lions have a really good offensive line. I think there are question marks with their quarterback come playoff time, though I think they have the best group of skill players. I mean, you saw that not just with Gibbs, but also with St. Brown. And Joe, you mentioned Montgomery, who wasn't as big yesterday, but it's the best 1-2 punch in football. Yeah, with the Buccaneers, I mean, I think they're still pretty safe to win their division. Evans is going to be lost, but Ibuka is going to get healthier. Godwin will be back. They draft really well. They're good defensively. I guess what you have to give the Lions a lot of credit. I mean, to hold that team, even with Evans going out to 9 points, 9 points in a dome. I think a lot of people probably had the over in that game. It was well under. That's a pretty impressive effort by Detroit, who I think is far and away now, well, I think solidly the best team in the NFC and one of the two or three best teams in football.
Agree with that. And speaking of the NFC, Steve, the Packers, I mean, a lot of people jumped on the Packers early on. They did beat the Cardinals, and the Cardinals are a team that, they're playing with our guy, Jacoby Brissett, and Kyler Murray's been out, and they might play better with Jacoby Brissett, but they still seem like when you're watching them, like, why is this game so close? Like, I know they're very young. It's a very young team. You know how I feel about Jordan Love. Like, he can look really good, but I don't trust him in big spots. Where are you with the Green Bay Packers?
I mean, they should have slaughtered Arizona. I mean, they've had that incredible game week one, and then they've been good. Have they been great? I don't really think they're really that good. And I agree with you in Love. He's better, he's doing well, but he can just make that terrible interception every once in a while. And again, if we're gonna say who are the best teams, you don't see them, I don't see them doing really well in the playoffs because just something is going to go wrong. And you see a team like the Lions, I think it is back now to the Lions and to the Chiefs and the Lions to me in that order, because everybody was waiting for the Chiefs to get speed. And the week before, Rashid Rice came back. I think Worthy got healthy after after Kelsey not wrecked his arm or
He
shoulder
wrecked
or
them pretty good on
whatever.
that
And
route.
so they have real good speed before Rashid Rice. And you notice they gave him the first one, that little flip forward pass from the 5 or 7, whatever yard line, to kind of get him in. It's like in basketball, you're going to make sure your guy gets the ball early so he can do something with it. And this was, to me, the equivalent of that, a 2 foot forward pass, which has always bothered me. That's a touchdown pass. And that's
Mahomes
like
has a
a
lot
good
of
thing.
those. Mahomes has a lot of those.
The quarter, the quarterbacks don't want to hand off anymore. They want to do this, but it works. So what am I going to say? But right now, uh, Joe and I have said for the last 4 or 5 weeks, we got nobody at the top. We got nobody at the top. We got nobody at the top. Now I think we have Chiefs one, Lions two, and I think those are pretty fair numbers. Although you guys could maybe talk about the Colts. I forget their quarterback's name and where he used to play. Slipped my mind.
I'm going to get to him because I want to get Johnny's thoughts on the Chiefs. Now, look, okay, the Raiders didn't have Jacoby Myers. Brock Bowers is out. Their offensive tackle was out. Max Crosby was hurt, and they have Geno Smith. But three first downs and 30 offensive plays, 97 yards of offense for the Raiders. Is it and I know the Chiefs chewed up a lot of clock on these long drives, but 31-0 wasn't a ball game. Was it the Chiefs looking that much better or the Raiders looking that much worse? Kind of putting them in the category of like the
Or
Jets, maybe,
both.
or both,
Both. Yeah. I didn't realize that stat, Joe. 30 offensive plays. Wow.
right? You have to try to do that. I mean, that's ridiculous.
That's unreal. But no, I think the Chiefs, yeah, the reason they're the best team in football, Steve mentioned having the speed back, but Mahomes is playing at an MVP level. I think a lot of these guys for these individual awards get docked a little bit when they are expected to be there. But
Mhm.
Mahomes, I think, has to be now the favorite for MVP. And their defense, with Spags, they're solid. I'm not saying they're definitely a top unit. They're close to a top five unit. They're going to keep you in games, and they can totally shut you out if you're not with it offensively. You think it would bode well. Obviously the AFC West matchup now is Chiefs Broncos, which will come a couple times later in the season. But with we'll get to the Broncos game, I'm sure, but you got to be happy if you're a Chiefs fan. Not that the Broncos won, but just with the fact that they're going to be able to probably handle them defensively quite easily. So I think the Chiefs are once again. We're here again, fellas. This time we didn't wait till January though to say it, but it looks like the Chiefs are the team to beat.
Yeah, again, until they pronounce Mahomes dead, like you don't want to mess with Mahomes in the playoffs. I don't care what they looked like earlier in the season. Started out 0-2, remember. Many teams that start out 0-2, like 85% don't make the playoffs. I think they're going to be fine. The Broncos, yes, for some reason, I still can't buy into the Broncos. Okay, 33 points in the fourth quarter. That is very impressive. And I think the Giants are a lot better than people think. Look, they smacked the Eagles around. That game wasn't even that close. And then, they had a 19-point lead. Call for Brian Dable's job if you want. And the defense went into a prevent late, which I didn't like. I thought they should have gone after Bo Nix, and they didn't use the clock, in my opinion, as appropriately as they could have. But hey, give the Broncos credit. I mean, in the fourth quarter, I think he was the first quarterback to have two rushing touchdowns and two passing touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And of course, the
Ever.
kicker from Rutgers misses two extra points. I mean, just little things went wrong for the Giants. Jackson Dart had that awful pick. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes, but I'm not sure if that was the right play call there. But yeah, a lot of things went wrong to go into that. But hey, look, they went in, they beat Philly down 14 in the fourth quarter, down 19 to the Giants at home. They scored 33 points. Steve, your thoughts on the Broncos? How good are they? Where are they? What are they?
Well, I was kind of sold on the Broncos, actually, unlike you, but after seeing them, I guess I'll say struggle to beat the Jets. I mean, when you look at the Jets and the Giants, look, the Giants are good now. You don't want to play the Giants.
No, you
I don't
don't.
care who you are, but the Jets are horrific. And that was probably the closest they've come to a win, 13-11. Um, but it was just so weird. Unfortunately, I told Johnny I had to leave with 5 minutes left because I had to go to a dinner place that I didn't necessarily want to go to, but whatever. I had no idea. He sent me a text. Denver's winning? Question mark. And I
Then
was
they
like,
then they then they went down. Then they went down, but then they still
Went
won.
down again. You're right. At the
and then I
interference
think I
call.
think that's impossible. But you don't win big games. I mean, let's be real now. The Denver plays the Chiefs right now. Wherever they play, who are you going to like? It's not even a
Sure.
conversation. They are good. I don't know. I've never liked their super duper coach who won what? One Super Bowl in New Orleans
With
with
Drew
Drew
Brees,
Brees.
right. I agree with you
And
there.
and Peyton, they show him on the sidelines like he's a big genius, and now you're down all this stuff. So does he get credit for having his team score 33 points in the fourth quarter? I guess you get some credit for it, but my goodness, it's just how could this happen? But I will, if the Giants had won that game, and I'm a Giants fan, I'd say, hey, whatever you think. You know what I've noticed about Dart? He has a horrific completion percentage, but he has an incredible per completion. He was 15 for 33. I mean, that's horrifically bad nowadays. He was 15 for 33, but those 15 completions were for 283 yards. You're right, he threw a terrible interception, but you're surprised he hasn't thrown more. They just threw him into the fire.
Right.
Now you got to wonder what Russell Wilson's thinking on the sidelines. But
And without neighbors, very impressive. Without
Very
neighbors.
impressive.
yeah,
Yeah.
so Dable's trying to save his job. This did not help. And I think he's just going to walk in and go, look, we should have won that game. And if I had neighbors, we would have won easily. We would have scored 50 or whatever he's going to say. But these guys are playing for their job. So Sean, the GM, also. They're playing, they're hoping the Giants do well for their jobs. And clearly the Giants are a much better team just with these two rookies because the Scatterboo guy just looks to knock people over. I mean, he doesn't care. He's hoping you come in head first to him, and he's just watch how he gets up after every run. I mean, these guys are trying to hurt him now. Don't tell me they're just trying to tackle him hard. I think they're trying to hurt him or get the best possible shot they can. And all he does is get up every time. You look at the shots and you go like this. The guy gets back and runs back to the backfield. So I think the Giants are going to be okay. Not necessarily this year, but they're going to be okay. I know Johnny's going to say something about this, but I know he wants to talk about those Patriots too, because Joe, the Patriots are back. I don't know if you got the email from New England, but Patriots are back.
Johnny, I was going to get into the Patriots right now. I mean, revenge game, no revenge game. Vrabel kind of blew it off, but I
Revenge game.
think he was pretty annoyed at what happened in Tennessee and how he got let go and what he's done with the Patriots and Drake May, 31-13, pretty handily, taking care of business and he's doing a nice job in New England.
May's looking like I'm going to say it. I said a couple of weeks ago he's playing like a top 10 quarterback. Right now he's playing like a top 5 quarterback in football. I mean his completion percentage is off the charts. I'll get to that in a second. I was a little concerned. I'm going to be a little nitpicky. The Titans actually really moved the ball in this first half. It was 17-13 early. But then obviously New England really clamped down, and the Titans aren't a very good team. They had their 2 top defenders out for most of the game, and New England won pretty easy. I think the question for the Patriots is this. Are they really back? Is it a function of, besides the Bills, who frankly haven't played well, of their schedule, which is historically weak? Is it a little bit of both? Probably a little bit of both. I think this week will be a good test for their offense because they're playing a Cleveland Browns team that, New England should beat, but the Browns are very good defensively. So I think we'll get a good sense of how good May and this offense are. But look, May is great. They started running the ball better. The offensive line protection is amazing. He made a couple, I'm not going to compare him to Brady the way some has, but he made a couple of on the sideline Brady-esque throws. There was one to Mac Hollins that got over the defensive back. That was a beautiful sort of combination touch, but good pass. Stephon Diggs is playing like a number one receiver, which we've said. So look, they're playing really well on especially on offense, but on both sides of the football. The only thing I'll say that frustrated me a little bit is May went 21 of 23, which Steve, you have the headline, right?
I'll give you the quote, and this is from Michael Eaves, who, all these guys on Sports Center, men and women, they try and be cool and crack jokes and do this or do that. But I have something to say when Johnny's done, but I'll just read the quote that he said. So 21 for 23 was 91.3% completion rate. And when they were going down what this meant in the history of football, the history of Patriots, he's the first quarterback to run for 50 yards and do that, Johnny, which you'll agree your guy couldn't have done. But his quote was then, this was also the highest single game completion percentage in the history of the New England Patriots, passing Tom Brady. Now, I didn't know this, but of course, Johnny calls me up and like, look at these guys, look what they're doing. But Johnny can take it from here.
Yeah, it's just this is where I get a little bit of my old man in me, you'll see, Joe. But Brady went, and I knew this right away, went 26 of 28 in the divisional round in 2008 against the Jaguars, a season where they almost went undefeated for 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, of course. So to say that he passed Tom Brady when, because Brady didn't do this in the regular season, he only did this in a single
In the
playoff
playoff game.
game, is a little bit rich. And I really can't stand these stats that do that. And if you're going to do it, you need to like put in caps the word regular as opposed to, passing somebody. But look, could I ask for anything more from Drake May at this point? Not at all. I think I saw on one of these sites he has the fourth shortest odds for MVP. I mean, that demonstrates how
Wow.
he's playing. He's playing like a top 5 quarterback in football right now.
Well, speaking of MVP, and he is Drake May, former Giant Danny Jones is also in the talk for MVP. He's playing great with Shane Steichen, and they seem to be for real. Jonathan Taylor, 3 touchdowns again, like he's running wild. And they just look, the Colts were, or I'm sorry, the Chargers were supposed to be a team that was like, I'm not sure what to make of the Chargers. They seem like a team that's always a step away from being a step away, and they falter. But I mean, I'll give the Colts credit. I mean, they whacked the Chargers the other day, and Danny Jones had another good game, a couple touchdown passes, and they're 6-1. Pretty impressive. Steve, your thoughts on because
The
he
Colts
was
are for
he was your,
real.
he was your quarterback for a long time.
Was he?
Brandon
No, I'm going to give these guys credit. They leave the New York area, or even Mac Jones leaving the Patriots, frankly. But they leave the New York area, and they're like, look, it was always the offensive line. Daniel Jones never had time. The offensive line is better now. He'd be better there. but he's found the right place because you're right, Jonathan Taylor. Johnny and I talked about this last year, Joe. So did we. And this year, the running backs have returned. How they get nickeled and dimed on their money now is still beyond me because the running game last year and this year, it goes back to the 60s. If you can run it, then you can throw it. And now with the better throwing today and the better whatever the quarterbacks can do that weren't, I always remember like Terry Bradshaw. I think he had no, not Terry. Lynn Swan had like 370 receptions and made the Hall of Fame. So he was a Hall of Famer, but the game was so different back then. But now you're just slinging it. But you also have great runners who allow you to sling it. So if you got Jonathan Taylor in your backfield, or Barkley last year, they really ganged up on him this year, Joe, which has really hurt the Eagles' offense. If you have these guys, you have a two-dimensional team, which for years, the running back was like a forgotten entity, but now we talked about it, the three of us talked about it all last year, the return of the running back. And now these guys are getting a little more money. I mean, McCaffrey beat the Falcons, which I do want to mention briefly in a minute or two. But yeah, the Colts are for real. I mean, they're 6-1, right? They have the best record in the NFL. And every game you go, oh, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. Oh, the Chargers. And I heard one guy say, oh, if they beat the Chargers in Los Angeles, then they're really good. Well, they were really good before that. And the Chargers are one of those up and down teams. I kind of lost respect for the Chargers last year, including Herbert because of that playoff game. They couldn't have been worse. But you're right, Taylor with 3 TDs again. Uh, they're for real. I mean, they're for real. They can, they might be number three. In fact, they are number three on my list. I'd go Chiefs, Lions, Colts right now. And I might be underdoing the Colts because you just expect them to come back to the pack. But Daniel Jones now he's not Carson Wentz, 13 games MVP, but he's 7 games MVP, you could argue right now.
He's done a very nice job. And speaking of Carson Wentz, first half of the Vikings game reminded, I think, people why the Eagles got rid of him after 5 years. And the second half kind of reminded people why Jalen Hurts replaced him back in 2020. Pitched a perfect game. Slow going. Again, the first half was a little slow, aside from the first touchdown pass to A.J. Brown. I think they netted 8 yards until the final drive, which resulted in halftime. Exploded in the second half a little bit. And he found his guys, but still, Saquon Barkley is averaging 3.3 yards per carry this year. Still, he had 18 carries, 44 yards. I think the offense would look a lot better if that loosened up a little bit. What are you guys seeing from Saquon Barkley? To me, when he does, hit the hole for 8, 9, 10 yards, which has been rare this year, he looks as quick and as fast as he always has. But I know 482 touches last year is a lot of touches, and they usually fall off. Running backs do the next year, but I think it's more of an offensive line problem. I can't understand why he is not. I mean, these are bad numbers. They're not even like, all right, 85 yards, 80 bad numbers from Saquon Barkley. Johnny, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's an offensive line issue. I just don't think they're winning up front, obviously, anywhere near the degree that they did last year. It's hard to imagine that Barkley could just literally fall off a cliff. I don't think that's what's happening. I think a lot of teams, saw the Eagles' inability to throw the ball for a while, and I've really challenged them to do that, but give them credit against a good, opportunistic Vikings defense. Not only A.J. Brown I think he had a couple touchdowns, but Devontae Smith had a career day, right? 9 receptions, 180 or so receiving yards. Obviously, a nice throw at the end from Hurts to Brown to really ice the game. So just you have to be happy if you're an Eagles fan from the standpoint of them being able to throw the football. I do think they have an issue up front, and it's hard to imagine them going deep in January because their passing game is so up and down without Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
We said it last year. He's not a guy who necessarily is going to get you 5 yards at a time. Sometimes, like against the Rams, right? He might actually get stuffed quite a bit, but he's going to break one or two,
Oh,
which is going to, really change that sort of yards per carry.
sure.
But I didn't realize 3.3. I was going to say he's performing the running game like a below average rushing attack. That's a bad rushing attack, and they're going to have to turn that around if they want to make a deep playoff run.
I totally
And
agree.
I think part of that, Joe, is that after the season that Barkley had last year, they're kind of ganging up maybe more in the box. And they're going out of their way to stop the run. And Johnny's right, since their passing game hasn't been real good, at least until yesterday. Now A.J. Brown is a happy man, I guess. Everything's okay.
For now. For
I
now.
caught 2 touchdown passes, so I need at least one every week or whatever. I mean, it's so when they got beat the first time, they said, "Well, what do you see the difference in in your team now?" And he said, "We lost."
Mhm. Right.
I mean, he's halfway a funny guy, but he's not. I don't think he's a good guy to have in your locker room, frankly, because if it goes bad in a big game or something, he's just going to, point the finger. They didn't throw it to me or whatever. But the Eagles aren't far behind the Eagles. But I think Johnny's right and you're right. I think it is the offensive line, and the more you do what we do, the more you see it's the offensive line and the defensive line. Can you get to the quarterback if you're on defense? If you can do it with four, you're a different team than if you can't do it with four. So I did want to mention the Falcons 49ers game. I know we're not going to talk, even though Joe, you and I in our first real picks, we were both 2-1. We'll deal with that on Friday. But I really like the Falcons to beat the 49ers. The 49ers, now they did get Kittle back, but I just want to this year's Barkley, by the way, to me is Bijan Robinson. I mean, you can make a case for other people, but my goodness, he's so good. And they did a good job. He only had 92 scrimmage yards, whereas McCaffrey had
120.
129 rushing, 72 receiving. And the 49ers did win, but there was a play late in the game. It was 13-10, and the 49ers were driving. And I think they had like first or second and goal from the 4-yard line. They give the ball to McCaffrey. He goes up the middle. You're watching on TV, and he scores a touchdown. The game's essentially over. It's 20-10, and there's only a few minutes left, unless you're playing Denver or unless you're the Giants. I'm not sure which one that was. But in any event, they show the replay. Nobody says a word about the touchdown. He scores, he kicks the extra point, 20-10. The game is in essence over, maybe a couple minutes left in the game. And then when they come back, I wish I knew the expert's name because I hadn't heard him before. But they showed the replay, and you had a lineman, an offensive lineman, grab McCaffrey by his ankles or his calves and literally pull him in to the goal line. He was in front of him and pulled him in the last 3 yards. And this guy, now I didn't know this, Johnny did, and maybe you do too, Joe, but you are not allowed to be in front of a guy and pull him. You can get back and do the tush push or do anything you want
That's
from
right.
behind, but you can't be in front of him and pull him in. In fact, it's a 10-yard penalty.
That's correct.
The 10-yard penalty from the 3-yard line on second and goal or whatever, and they're out at the 13. Odds are they're going to kick a field goal, and then they're up 6. And maybe, look, this probably wasn't going to happen, but maybe Penix Jr. can take them down the field and win the game. So, Johnny, I didn't tell you this, but of course I called up Joe and I said, Joe, I want like a do-over. I want to pass on that game because come on. Nobody, no referee. I think it's because when was the last time you saw that call? I can't even think of the last time
No,
that was
I've
called.
never, I don't know if I've ever seen it.
And then Johnny had one other one in this game that I wasn't aware of, but maybe I'll renew when we finish this, Joe, and you'll give me a pass on that. But I guess there's no
You gonna
pass.
appeal it? You gonna appeal it?
Hey,
No appeals
at
are
least
one with.
at least you didn't have Giants money line. At least you didn't have that.
Well, I will say this, Johnny. I don't know which one it is, MGM or one of those. They're relatively new. They're not FanDuel or DraftKings, but one of them had a thing at the beginning of the year. If your team is up 17 points, you win, even if they lose.
Yes.
So maybe you got to find that one because it's happened a few times now, 17 point lead.
Yeah.
But what was the other one in the Falcons game that you knew about, Johnny, that I missed?
Yeah, I also just really quick because I totally forgot. There was some crazy stat. I think the last 1,600 games where an NFL team was up like 16 or 18 more with 6 minutes to go in the game, that team had won until 1,600 games until what the Broncos did against the Giants.
Yes.
But what I missed, Steve, is so before the McCaffrey touchdown, they had 3rd and 13. And McCaffrey, I thought they were playing really soft, and McCaffrey was able to get a first down to set up first and goal. And then one play after that, that's when the pulling came. But Raheem Morris, they pointed out post game, Falcons only had 10 guys on the field. And the coach took full credit, but you can't 3rd and 13 when you're up 3 down in the red zone. You can't. I mean, that's just inexcusable. You can't have 10 guys on the field. So that was obviously as, big of a mess up as I'd say as the refs missing that call.
One thing, I mean, we pretty much hit all the games, but The Dallas Cowboys are a little bit of an enigma. I mean, their defense has been horrible all year, and his Commanders haven't been up to what they were, their level of play. Of course, Jaden Daniels has been banged up this year, and he hurt himself again in the game. But the offense for Dallas seems to be clicking and has clicked all year. With George Pickens, when CeeDee Lamb went down, George Pickens stepped up, and it's still one versus two. It's kind of like the Eagles having A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Who's one, who's two doesn't matter. They're both, very dangerous guys to throw to. And Dak's been having a great year. Dallas is 3-3. Can they still make some noise? Because it's still early in the season.
Yeah, I'll give Ferguson. Ferguson's playing like the best tight end in football too. I mean,
Yes.
actually as a product of Dak, but yeah, I mean they got Williams is playing great, but you saw the immediate impact Lamb had. Pickens is maybe the best number two in football, though maybe T. Higgins with Joe Flacco is going to try and reclaim that position. We didn't talk about that was a heck of a game. Maybe you guys talked about that last Friday. No, look, I think the Cowboys have an outside shot at the playoffs because of how good they are offensively. And especially with Daniels being banged up. Also, in Daniels' defense, they were down McLaurin and Debo, and I think whoever their third option is. So,
They
uh,
were.
but I do, yeah, but I don't think you got to play a little bit of defense. And because of that, do they have a chance to make the playoffs? Sure. Do I think they have a chance to go anywhere deep in the playoffs? No.
And
Steven?
Joe, if I could just mention that Seattle game last night,
Oh,
because
yeah.
Seattle's another one that's kind of climbing the ladder as other people are going down. But they beat the Texans 27-19. The Texans, I don't think CJ Stroud has recovered from his excellent first year. He
He
was not
hasn't.
good.
Not at
Yeah,
all.
not good this year. He's 2-4. But I will say Sam Darnold, another New York reject, I guess. I mean, what are the Jets thinking now when they got Fields? Or maybe they don't have Fields anymore. Who knows? But it was surprising because I was watching that game and Darnold is going back to pass, and it's almost like you should have a rule. I'm not going into the end zone if I can avoid it. But not only does he go into the end zone, he gets tackled, he gets stripped, he loses the ball, and it's not a safety, it's a touchdown. Now that's like a Sam Darnold Jets play, I would call that. But Seattle's for real. They have a good defense. This guy in Jigba is one of, if not the best wide receivers in the league now. And they beat the Texans 27-19 with a meaningless touchdown at the end. The game wasn't as close as the score said it was. But Seattle at 5-2, they're a factor to be considered as well. You can't forget about them. And people are saying, I haven't watched every one of their games, but people are saying Sam Darnold is playing better now than he did for the Vikings last year. And the Vikings and their J.J. McCarthy experiment doesn't look like it's going to be too good. He's played 8 quarters, 7 bad ones. And we'll see what happens when he comes back. But your ex-guy, Carson Wentz, probably is not the answer to take them to a high level.
He actually had good numbers, but he did some. Jalen Carter came in like a missile, and he just threw the ball pick six right to Jalen Hunt. And then the next drive, he's rolling to his right deep, and he throws a pop fly that Andrew Makuba is just sitting there waiting for. Showed some moxie late, but he missed some throws, and they got in the red zone 6 times, only scored once. Again, he hasn't played a lot of football. He's played for a lot of different teams. That's his fifth team in 5 years, Carson Wentz. But it's I think again they made a mistake not keeping Sam Darnold. I know the Lions took care of them late in the last game, and then the Rams 9 sacks. Getting sacked 9 times. Maybe you should talk to your offensive line a little bit. I don't know if that's all Darnold's fault. He didn't look good, but to go with Jay to an unknown rookie after a guy wins 14 games, it's a pretty big risk. And I think they're at least right now seeing the downside of that.
And the Rams killed the Jaguars in London, right? Killed them.
Five touchdowns for Matt
Without
Stafford. Didn't even have
Puka.
Puka, my guy. 5 touchdowns.
and
Unbelievable. Guys, it's a pleasure as usual. Johnny, we appreciate it. Steve, always a pleasure. And what's today? Tuesday? Yeah, we'll preview week 8 on Friday. And again, you can follow Steve's stuff on his daily Facebook forum page, Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas, and also this podcast on YouTube and all the audio outlets, Spotify, et cetera, and Apple. And you can follow me on Instagram at Joe Staszak 4799 or on Twitter at just Staszak975. Appreciate it, fellas. Always enjoy it, and we'll catch you in a little bit.
Good being with you guys as always.
You too.
Always a pleasure.
Appreciate it, fellas, and thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you in a few days.